Welcome to the channel Movie Barber. Today we gonna see the list of most anticipated upcoming movies. In the present year 2020, the coronavirus has seriously scrambled release date plans for Hollywood. Release dates were always subject to change, but now they're constantly moving around the calendar. Films are either going directly to streaming, getting pushed further back into 2020, or moving into 2021. With all of these changes, it can be difficult to keep track of when the films you want to see are set to come out. That's where our 2020 release calendar comes in. While these dates are still subject to change, at least you can see when they're currently slated to arrive. The upcoming movie lists are as follows. Number 1, The Witches, directed by Robert Zemeckis, opening on October 22, 2020. Robert Zemeckis will direct this remake of Roald Dahl's The Witches, which was first brought to the big screen by director Nicholas Roeg in 1990. Zemeckis has some big shoes to fill. The original tale of an annual convention of the world's witches, that is interrupted by an inquisitive young boy, sits at 100% on the tomato meter. Anne Hathaway, who will star as the Grand High Witch, has even bigger shoes to fill, though. Angelica Houston's performance as the world's head witch has made the character one of the most memorable kids' villains in cinema. Number 2, Soul, 2020, directed by Pete Docter, opening on November 20, 2020. The second Pixar offering of the year features Jamie Foxx as a jazz-loving middle school teacher, whose soul is separated from his body during an accident, and transported to a training center for newer souls, preparing to enter the bodies of newborn babies. There, he meets a soul in training who has been trapped there for years. Number 3, Free Guy, 2020, directed by Sean Levy, opening on December 11, 2020. Ryan Reynolds brings his sarcastic wit and boyishly good-looking everyman charm to this self-referential, special effects-driven comedy. He stars as Guy, a nondescript bank teller non-player character, NPC, in a violent, open-world video game who suddenly becomes self-aware, and decides to take his destiny into his own hands. Expect a lot of ironic, self-referential humor and over-the-top action shenanigans, which, when Ryan Reynolds is involved, is essentially its own genre these days. Number 4, Wonder Woman 1984, directed by Patty Jenkins, opening on December 25, 2020, as villain Cheetah, Bridesmaids Kristen Wiig climbs aboard the Wonder Woman sequel, which sees Gal Gadot returning to her Amazon princess role that catapulted the first film to a $412.5 million box office, a certified fresh 92% tomato meter score, and the number 2 spot in our list of the 64 best superhero movies of all time. The action is set during the Cold War in the 80s, and finds Chris Pine reappearing as Wonder Woman's love interest, Steve Trevor, despite his apparent death in the first film. Number 5, The French Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson, initially reported to be a musical. Wes Anderson's next film will be a drama that brings to life a handful of stories from a magazine created by an American living in a fictional city in France. The film's press release calls it a love letter to journalists, and it brings together several regular collaborators in a massive, star-studded cast. Number 6, Cajillionaire, director Miranda July. Why we're excited. The latest from performance artist/writer/filmmaker, Miranda July is a weird and wonderful saga about families and the power they hold over us. It stars Evan Rachel Wood as Old Dolio. Yes, her name is Old Dolio, the daughter of the smallest time con artists you could possibly imagine. When an exuberant young woman, played by Gina Rodriguez, gets mixed up in the family's mischief, Old Dolio starts to reconsider her attachments. Though it was divisive when it premiered at Sundance earlier this year, Cajillionaire is a sweetly odd winner. Number 7, Freaky, director Christopher Landon. Why we're excited. Pulling off a fun horror comedy is one of the trickier balancing acts in genre filmmaking, requiring a deft mix of laughs and scares, but director Christopher Landon did it successfully with Happy Death Day, and its irreverent sequel. He just might do it again with this body-swapping rip from Blumhouse, which uses Freaky Friday as a jumping-off point for something more sinister. Kathryn Newton of Big Little Lies and the Society plays a high schooler who trades places with a serial killer, putting all of her classmates at risk, and, presumably, bloody hilarity ensues. Number 8, American Utopia, director, Spike Lee. Why we're excited. Spike Lee's filmed version of David Byrne's Broadway show, American Utopia, is something of a miracle in these times, a strange and beautiful alchemy of live theater and cinema, making you miss one while feeling grateful for the existence of the other. In a simple sense, Byrne's production is just a concert featuring songs, spanning the artist's entire career. But it's so much more than that. Backed by his insanely talented band, Byrne orchestrates a dance piece as well as an optimistic, but not unrealistic, meditation on the resilience of community. Lee adds his own signatures, highlighting the political undertones in the piece. At one point, an image of Colin Kaepernick appears above Byrne. During a rendition of Janelle Monáe's Hell Utalm Bout, which calls out the names of victims of racial violence, Lee zooms in on images of the dead, turning the number into even more of a requiem, as Byrne says. But American Utopia is also packed with joy, the joy of creating live music and spectacle, and the joy of celebrating that achievement in a room full of other people. It's a treasure. Number 9, Death on the Nile, director, Kenneth Branagh. Why we're excited. Hercule Poirot is back, baby, and this time he's heading to Egypt to solve a murder, linked to an intriguing love triangle. While Branagh's first outing as Poirot in 2017's Murder on the Orient Express wasn't exactly great, it's still a ton of fun to watch a bunch of today's most famous actors chew scenery pretending to be turn-of-the-century aristocrats, with silly accents and motives to kill. Number 10, Black Widow, director, Kate Shortland. Why we're excited. Nearly 10 years after the internet began clamoring for a standalone film, featuring the MCU's first female Avenger, we're finally getting one. Unless Disney decides to move the release date again, which looks fairly likely at this point. Judging from the trailers, Black Widow looks like a lot of shooty, kicky, punchy, Russian spy fun. Not to mention the story takes place between Civil War and Infinity War, so you might want to watch out for a familiar face or two you may not expect. Thanks for watching our video. Please comment the suggestions and what you think about the video. Please like and share, subscribe our channel for more videos.